The Arkansas Tech University Symphonic Wind Ensemble will present a concert on Sunday, October 5th entitled Elements. It will begin at 2:30 p.m. in Witherspoon Auditorium. Admission will be free and open to the public. And here to tell us all about it is Dr. Daniel A. Belongia, Professor of Music, Director of Bands, and Conductor of the Symphonic Wind Ensemble at Arkansas Tech University. Dr. Belongia, thank you very much for taking this time.
Thank you, Sam.
I can tell from looking at the concert poster, one thing that really jumps off the page at me is the first several pieces in particular. You have just a great quality and a great variety of soloists who are going to be featured during some of those pieces. If you could just share a little bit about what the people can expect to enjoy on Sunday.
Hopefully, a little bit something for everybody. You said it. Four, actually, guest artists, solo concerto type pieces. We're opening with a phenomenal young composer named Viet Cong from the state of Georgia. Wrote a piece called Renewal for percussion quartet. Classically, we'd call this a concerto grosso, means large group of soloists, so there's four here. Dr. Corey Fika, our professor of percussion, was in the professional percussion quartet that premiered the piece in the state of Texas years ago. And when we started to build the architecture of the year, I've always been drawn to this music. I was excited about the piece, and I asked Corey, what do you think about this piece and how was that experience? And he said it was terrific, and he really was excited to do it again, especially if he could do it with his colleagues in this professional quartet called the Epoch Quartet. We'll come back to that a little later. But in this instance, he's worked with three of the students in his studio. Students Craig and Partee, Miguel Diaz-Moreno, and Emmanuel Chambers from Hector and from Dardanelle and from Mountain Home that are students, and they're having this opportunity now to be a co-soloist with their teacher on the Concerto Grosso to start the program, the second movement only. We named the concert Elements for two reasons. One is that the music is very elemental in its title and what it's referencing. We have a lot of water. This second movement is called Wind in Renewal. We also called it Elements because we're doing portions of pieces of music, just the second movement of the Kwong, and then portions of other multi-movement pieces later on. So it has a bit of a double reference point there. We're opening with that Concerto Grosso. Then Dr. Amy Porter is going to join us for just the second performance ever of three movements out of nine of Maria Schneider's incredible piece called Winter Morning Walks. This music was written for the world-famous soprano Dawn Upshaw and a chamber orchestra in Minnesota. And they won a grant. As I understand it, they had an opportunity to commission anyone in the world to write a piece of music for Dawn. And they asked her, and she said, Maria, as I understand it pretty quickly, please, Maria Schneider. Well, Maria was inspired by a set of poems by a person named Ted Kooser. Ted was Poet Laureate of the United States, and I believe he won a Pulitzer Prize. In 1998, around that time, Ted was diagnosed very, very stage 4 terminal cancer, and was not forced, I suppose, but given the opportunity to engage in all of the treatments available to him. And he did very aggressively, as I understand it, and the radiation in particular made it so that he could not step outside in the daylight. The UV from the sun would just be too much for him. He's an Iowa-based poet. This is November, December, January, February, March. In Iowa, it's dark, it's cold. We have a person staring their mortality in the face. And of course, as one would, he fought some depression and began to realize, I got to get some exercise, I got to do something. So he just started walking before the sun came up. He went out every morning, walked 2 miles in the dark. Being a poet, when he got home, he wrote a poem about his walk. And it's pre-Zoom, it's pre-FaceTime. He started writing the poems on postcards, and he mailed one every day to his friend Jim. Well, Jim turned them into a book called Winter Morning Walks, 100 Postcards by Ted Kooser. Maria found 9 of the poems and selected them to set for soprano and chamber orchestra. And Maria is a very accomplished jazz composer. So though these are strings and a classically trained soprano who's very famous in the opera world, It's very jazz oriented, this music. The first movement is called Perfectly Still This Solstice Morning. So it's in the winter and very quiet and very dark. The second movement is called Walking by Flashlight. And the third movement is called the ninth movement is called How Important It Must Be. The poems are solemn in some cases. Again, we've got a person staring their mortality in the face. Others are a little more whimsical. How Important It Must Be is the last movement, and I think anyone will be pretty moved just by the words alone. He said, how important it must be to someone that I am alive and walking and writing these poems. Ted didn't know if he'd be around to find out if it was important to anyone. Happy news, in 2025, Ted's around. Ted got 27 more years so far and counting. His treatment went very, very well. And now we have this beautiful music. The next piece on the program features T.J. Perry, my incredible trumpet colleague, and a piece by a composer named David Biedenbender that he and I both were very fortunate to get to know when we spent time in the state of Michigan. He's written this piece called River of Time, and the third movement is called Crossing. So here we are again. We have the water. In the second movement, it's winter, it's snow, the second piece. We have river here in the third piece, and the first piece references wind, those elements. And this piece won some of the biggest awards you can win in wind band composition last year. There's a brilliant new recording out by the wonderful people at Michigan State University, where TJ and I both were graduate students, fortunate enough to be, and TJ's teacher is the soloist on that recording. So it was another alignment of opportunities there to have that piece, and it's short, and some of these pieces are not that much longer than my description of them. Thanks for your patience. The second movement of the Kwong is about 5 minutes. Each of the movements of the Schneider are 3 to 4 minutes apiece, and then this movement of the Biedenbender is a little 5-minute fanfare, but David's creativity. There's sounds. If people come to the concert, you'll hear things that you've never heard in a band concert before. The percussionists take super balls, rubber balls, and they rub them on the skin of the bass drum, and it makes a guttural kind of a sound. There's a lot of manipulation of pitch in this piece in particular that it makes it really, really, really interesting. We're going to take an intermission after that, and then a new piece that I didn't know anything about a few months ago and never heard of the composer. But Phoebe Robertson, our incredible flute professor, helped me learn about this. She put this in my universe. The composer's name's William Linthicum Blackhorse, and he wrote a piece that I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, but it's Minikakmun, so Minikakmun, I believe. And he is of the Lakota Native American tribe, and that word in their language means the sound of water. And this is flute and just a small group of 10 or 11 musicians and 2 percussionists that manipulate a water tank. So Dr. Perry actually helped me. We had to create a rock wall to pour pitchers of water down this rock wall into this water tank to create the sounds of bubbling brooks. At times, the percussionists take cups and implements to make sounds with the surface of the water to emulate animals walking in puddles or drinking. Very nature, very sparse, but very, very beautiful piece that I'm just grateful to know about the composer William Linthicum Blackhorse and this piece. And those are our 4 soloist referenced pieces to that's about 75% of the program. Yeah.
And then for the Big Finish, a composer that you've allowed us to get to know very well here at Arkansas Tech through your decade plus with us, has been a gentleman by the name of John Mackey. And the Big Finish is going to be a piece that he wrote called The Frozen Cathedral. And I know one of the things that's going to make this a distinctive experience for the audience is the fact there's going to be an interactive film that's going to be a part of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've been fortunate. This will be, I think, the third opportunity, we've had to work with this company called Ion Concert Media. We performed David Maslanka-Child's Garden of Dreams recently with the accompanimental film, and then a piece by Julie Giroux called The Blue Marble that's about the planet Earth. And that one was 3 screens, kind of in an IMAX kind of situation. This piece, as you said, it's not new to campus. We performed it in Witherspoon Hall in the spring of 2016. And it's an epic, beautiful, again, sort of genre-bending piece where there are sounds that rare folks in the audience on Sunday will have heard in a band concert before. Instruments like the waterphone, which look like the World Series trophy, but you bow around the side of it, and it makes a sound that when you hear it, you're going to say, oh, I remember that sound from a thriller or a horror movie I saw before. There are antiphonal percussionists that will surround the audience, and sound effects up on stage along with the band, as well as now this new addition that we can drop the screen down and play images related to the musical concept. The title, Frozen Cathedral, is about the Alaskan landscape. It was commissioned by a conductor named John Locke at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, for a CBDNA convention hosted on his campus, the College Band Directors National Association. John commissioned John Locke, John Mackey, and told him that I'd like a rousing concert ender, a closing piece, that if you could you dedicate it to the memory of my lost son? And that's a heavy thing to ask a composer. That you want to be respectful, of course, and of course John was a bit concerned about how to profoundly and respectfully do such a thing, until John said one of the things that my boy was really in love with was Alaskan landscapes and mountains, and the Denali Mountains in particular. And so that gave John a spark to write a piece reflective of the imagery of icebergs and snow-capped mountaintops and those almost like space landscapes at the top and the bottom of the planet. And his very, very brilliant wife, who does the titling for him, helped him connect those two ideas. What does the Arctic have to do with the tragedy of a lost son? And as much as one would shudder to suggest that there's any silver lining to the loss of any child ever, the closest thing one might say was that, well, that beauty of innocence and that perfection of that young person is now a frozen cathedral. They will only be remembered in their most joyous and beautiful and perfect and innocent self. And though there's nothing that'll ever make that right, it is a small, beautiful thing, and reflected in the title of the Frozen Cathedral and this epic, rousing closer that John Mackey gave us.
We all reach these milestones in life. You just recently completed your first decade at Arkansas Tech, now beginning your 11th year as the conductor of the Symphonic Wind Ensemble, among many other responsibilities. I'm just curious, as you reflect back on that first decade specific to the Symphonic Wind Ensemble, the students you've had a chance to work with in this group, what have they brought to it that has allowed them to build upon the considerable legacy of instrumental music at Arkansas Tech?
That's a big question. And it's apt, I suppose, since I just referenced we're doing the Frozen Cathedral, and it had been done in the spring of 2016. There will always be the things in my wall will likely change here and there, but I'll never take down the photo of the fall 2015 Symphonic Wind Ensemble. Those students were kind enough to create a little wall memento with all of the programs from that fall 15, spring 16 year. And John Mackey, the Frozen Cathedral, is right there in April of 2016. So it's caused me an opportunity. It's given me an opportunity to look at that photo a little bit and point out where everybody is in life. And, it's hard to imagine that I'm in my 11th year here, my 21st year in higher ed, because I'm only 30. But I got a young start. I can't believe that joke worked. It's really...
I'm an easy audience.
I'm sorry, everybody else. That was just low-hanging fruit there. But... it is about legacy, and in the form of human beings. And I just had an amazing experience this morning. I got a phone call, from a name I didn't recognize, and I answered the phone, and the person said, "Is this Dr. Belangi?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "I'm so glad I caught you. This person's explained to me, he just saw my photo and profile on the website of a university in South Carolina called Winthrop University. My dear friend Lori Crochet is director of bands there, and she's invited me. I'm very, very excited. In November, I'm going to go and conduct the Winthrop University Honor Band. And this person said, I just saw your name and bio. I'm so excited you're coming to Winthrop, to South Carolina. He said, and I looked you up on the Arkansas Tech website. He said, you will not remember, but in 2002, I was a middle school band director, and I brought my band to a festival where you were an evaluator. And you went out to the parking lot to just tell me how good you thought my middle school band was and what a good job you thought I was doing. And he said, I was a fourth-year teacher. He said, I've never forgotten that. I'll never forget. I mean, out of the blue, I said, what a gift. Thank you for sharing that story with me. I'm so happy it meant something to you. And then we had a lovely little 10 or 15 minute conversation about what's going on in his career. He's responsible now for a staff of 42 band directors in the district where he works. And maybe I'll get a chance to see him in South Carolina in November. And that's not an ATU student, but I think it summarizes what all of us here hope we're able to do. I know, and I told my new friend here this morning that I know that I will never be able to actually pay back everybody that's done for me, but I'll die trying. I am here by a series of generosity and grace and luck of people that gave me chances that I didn't deserve, and second chances that I didn't deserve, and opportunities that I'll never be able to pay back. And that's what we're trying to do here. And we have our successful days and our less successful days. And I hope those students that are moving through life have had that benefit as well. We try to do that for them. And I know, because it's fun right now, we have 20 semesters of concert posters. In the beginning of this, you mentioned the poster for our concert. We make them because we want to advertise them. We make them so students have a souvenir. And then one goes in a frame in the hallway outside my office. And so there's 20 semesters of those concerts now. And it's always a joy when alumni come back and I get a chance to see them and give them a hug and shake their hands. And then I see them point at the, oh, remember that one? And that one was rough. That one, we got that one by the skin of our teeth. Or, boy, I love that piece of music. And we're planting seeds that we hope, are influential in these people's lives and that we can help them.
And there have been a number of milestone performances during that first decade. And now, as you begin your second decade at Arkansas Tech, this Symphonic Wind Ensemble coming up in a few months is going to have a chance to participate in another one of those milestone performances at the College Band Directors National Association Southwestern Division Conference down in Denton, Texas in February. If you could, tell us a little bit about that performance and how meaningful that is for the Arkansas Tech Department of Music to receive that recognition.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Yeah, it's all the things. The Fall 24, Spring 25 Symphonic Wind Ensemble earned us this opportunity. Live concert recordings from that academic year are what you submit to a blind panel of university wind conductors around the country. Then you're selected or not based on that application. So those students in the Fall 24, Spring 25 group are the people that built this opportunity for us. I consulted with some of my colleagues and administration is it the right time to do it? Not only we need to have the right students coming back in the Fall 25, Spring 26, we need to raise a lot of money to make it happen. We need to have the timing right to make it happen. You mentioned it's in Dallas. That's nice. It's not a tough drive for us. It's not Seattle. We don't have to go to New York City, even though love to do that sometime too, but that's a different lift. And it's always nice for us to, I think, engage our friends to the west there as well, and the fine band programs that we have students right now in the group from the state of Texas, and in addition to our wonderful Arkansas students. So it's a great target for us. The group is off to an amazing start. It's early, that performance in February, so it's caused me to try to brainstorm laying the groundwork throughout these months leading up to February. So the renewal piece, Viet Quang, the entire piece, we will bring to CBDNA in February. The Beat and Bender third movement with Dr. Perry will bring to the CBDNA in February, and Dr. Robertson's Mini Kakmum piece we're going to bring to the CBDNA in February. We're going to layer in a couple of others that go on our December program, and then add a symphony in January to round out the 90-minute program on Thursday night, February 26th, I believe is that date. And just forgive me a moment there to just appreciate and acknowledge that work of the 24-25 students. They provided great material for us so that we could earn the opportunity to have that Thursday night performance, February 26th.
So many wonderful things happening right now in the Arkansas Tech University music program. A couple of reminders: go to atu.edu/calendar to be able to access and schedule of all of the upcoming performances by the Arkansas Tech University Department of Music. And if distance or time ever prevents you from being able to attend a concert in person, I should say, then be sure to go to YouTube and just search for ATU Music, and you can watch those performances live or on an archived basis. Dr. Belangia, thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, Sam.
Until next time, so long, everybody.